Hello, 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 and welcome to a fantastic episode of Potstilled Live, the Takeover. As always, I'm your host, Matt Healy, and I'm delighted to be joined tonight, guys, by the folks from Dingle Distillery. Of course, a returning guest to the show, Mr. Graham Coull, Master Distiller of the Distillery, and a new guest to the show. And I'm very delighted to be able to welcome this man, his first outing on a live stream for a new role, Mr. Alan Glynn, International Brand Ambassador of Dingle Distillery. Gentlemen, to you both, welcome.
How you doing, Matt? Thanks.
All good, all good. As always, everyone who's watching at home, I see we have hundreds of people already on, keenly watching through YouTube and Facebook as well. Everyone who is watching at home, do let us know in the comments where you're joining us from, because as many of you will know, there's fantastic Dingle tasting kits that we've been sending out ahead of this tasting here on Potstilled Live. And we'd love to know where in the world you're joining us from and enjoying some Dingle whiskey too. And of course, if you are joining us and going to post on social media, do check out the bottom just below. We have the hashtag Dingle Tasting. Marketing manager Doug Ledden, who we'll mention once or twice tonight from Dingle Distillery, is a keen man for a hashtag, and he would love if you all use the hashtag of Dingle Tasting. So we'll get that moving this evening. So, gentlemen, as I always start, we're asking the people at home, but it's probably a good thing to ask you guys. Graham, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from the spare bedroom tonight. I haven't been sent there on purpose. I did choose to come this way. It also features my whiskey collection behind me, so it's quite a nice place to be.
And I think probably the third or fourth time you joined us from the spare bedroom. So at this point, I think we believe you that you haven't been relegated. But as always, we are very impressed by the fierce Wi-Fi connection down in Dingle. So I can't doing too much slagging anymore, because I think I might be the one in struggles here, and I'm sure Dingle will be fine. But Alan and yourself, where are you joining us from this evening?
Well, Matt, I'm actually joining you from somewhere that's going to be a little surprise of our own from the Dingle Distillery. We have a small little pop-up bar to come up in Dublin. It's from a secret location, but depending on how tonight goes, we might give you a little look into it later.
Secret, but not all that secret.
Secret, but not all that secret. I think people know about it, but we'll get into a little bit more on that later on and give you a little bit more information.
Well, good. As we've mentioned, we will be talking through not only this tasting kit, but there's quite a few nuggets to be dropping, and I think that might be one of them. I do want to say hello to everyone in the comment section. We have Cormac in sunny Spain. We have just hundreds of people saying good evening. We've got people in Bangor. I'm assuming Bangor in the north of Ireland rather than Bangor, Maine, but who knows? There's a few people joining us from the United States. We do have a few people in Minnesota joining us as well. We're coming in from the sunny southeast, as well as Cork as well, which is fantastic to see. We've got Meath and a lovely wet Dublin. So we're really covering Ireland at the moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing, because I know there's a lot of kits have gone out to Germany and Austria and Belgium as well as some of the Nordic countries. So I'm seeing Kildare here. I'm seeing a few people from Dingle. Someone apparently joining us from your kitchen, Graham, which is quite interesting. So I am delighted to see everyone in the comment section. And remember, guys, this is your chance to be able to engage and connect with Graham and Alan. So if you have questions as we go through tonight, make sure to put them in the comment section and let us know what your questions are, what your thoughts are. Sorry, I was caught off a little off guard. White Claw Hard Seltzer Ireland says, "Oh hey," that was an unexpected comment. But I'm delighted. So tons of people coming through. Dave Cummins dropping in as well. Fantastic. Who has been a big star of the show previously. But tonight we are here, as I said, to talk about Dingle Distillery, Dingle Whiskey. And of course, Alan, an introduction to you, and Graham, a nice return. For me, before we start off, I do have a lovely Dingle Around the Clock Porterhouse collaboration, the Imperial Stout here in my glass. I don't have a Dingle or a Porterhouse beer glass, so I'm going to cover this branding and drink quietly. But Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? And I'm going to apologize because my dog is whining at me to throw this ball. So I'm going to grab this ball. But you tell us a little bit about who you are and your role in Dingle.
No problem at all. So my name's Alan Glynn. I'm the new international brand ambassador for the Dingle Distillery. Originally from the west of Ireland as well, but a little bit further north in Galway. I've grew up in the bar trade. Actually, it was my family's business. From the old school spirit grocers, we were the local shop. Out the back door of the shop was into the pub, and then you got the old hardware store, you got the farm supplies, and we were even the local undertakers. So we really came up a different way, the old rural type of way in Ireland. And worked in the bar trade my whole life. Have operated bars in Ireland, in the UK, in America. Really kind of worked in towards cocktails and a lot of other things for a long time, and then really jumped into the spirit world. I've been working the last couple of years with the likes of Edrington, with Macallan, Highland Park, Glenrothes, and with the Dingle Distillery and Wild Turkey Bourbon as well, and Campari portfolio. So really kind of been working across different types of brands, sticking in the whiskey world. So I've been really excited, really interested with this role as well, to really get to represent an amazing distillery. I got to go down to the Dingle Distillery last week and work with Graham and the whole team there. And it was such a fantastic experience. They really opened up the doors and really welcomed me in. So obviously, knowing the top quality brand it was to start with, but knowing now everything I've seen in the background, it's just amazing to be involved, and delighted to be able to hear tonight to do my first official role as international brand ambassador.
Well, I'm glad to be able to take the training wheels off with you here now, as they say, or the stabilizer.
Take it easy on me, though, right?
Absolutely. We'll put all the hard questions to Graham, and if anything goes wrong, we'll just blame Doug in the marketing department. So,
can I say, Matt, just that Alan's only been in the job 2 weeks, but he already knows much more than Doug about whiskey.
I said it'll be lots of slagging of the one person that's not on the camera this evening. But yes, so Alan, you're saying that you had you down working in the distillery. Was this kind of like just a jaunt down to Dingle and you wet the head in Dick Max, or did Graham actually put you to work down there?
Oh, no. They put me to work. They put me right to work, from actually putting together the fantastic kits that we have there today with Faye and Sarah in the distillery, to getting into the actual distilling with the guys, starting at 6 a.m. on a distilling shift with Cormac and with Cormac and Eamon down there, and working with them all day, getting stuck in on the distilling, filling the mash tun, passing over the liquids, and even at the very end being quite lucky to get to jump into the mash tun myself and start shoveling all that out. So we had over a ton of barley in there that I got to shovel out myself. It's always a treat. If you wanted to understand what the mash tun is after being distilled, effectively it's like a giant bowl of dry porridge as such, all the barley sitting in there. But it's kind of a bit misleading as well. The second you shovel one little part out and you think it's gone, you get hit with a big massive whack of steam coming off it. Think about opening the oven door and just getting that in your face 50 times over while in a very enclosed space. That's what it's like. So they didn't take it easy on me either.
I was going to say, it's kind of your sauna for the day in there. It's not a cold place.
Like I'd even think about some of the fighters out there. You see them trying to cut weight, sitting in a sauna or sitting in a steam room on a bike. It's kind of a bit like that. You were shoveling in a steam room, which just wasn't the easiest. And then even getting down to the cask warehouse, working with Graham and Paddy down there and looking at the cask, taking a look at some of the liquids, like absolutely amazing. The guys really swung open the doors and they let everything show, and it was extra special to get down to do it.
Oh, fantastic. And Graham, we're all sitting here, or maybe not all, but hundreds of us, literally hundreds of us, are sitting here with tasting kits, and probably one of the most magnificent tasting kits that Dingle, I suppose, has sent out for one of these launches. We've got a fantastic print here of the Dingle bottle. You've got the tasting book as well. You've got branded pen of all things. And then some things as well that have been quite hotly talked about. We have a beautiful crystal pipette as well, which we'll be using a little bit later on. Of course, 4 whiskeys and an aging stick behind me as well. Particular favorite of mine, this grey hat. I service right to you, Graham. This is the life of a master distiller right here. I was just about to sing Faye's praises, so I hope that's who's dropping these in. But I was going to say, I saw these hats. My pack didn't arrive first out in the world, and I was looking at these hats, and I was saying to myself, I'm dying. I really hope I have a grey hat in my box. And that's exactly the color I got, so I was delighted. But Faye, for yourself and Sarah, you're doing Trojan work down in Dingle. They certainly, yeah. So how many kits did you have to put together?
We finished yesterday with 50 more. So there was just short of 300 in the last week.
So it's 4 whiskeys across 300 packs, 300 hats, everything. And that's all coming flat packed.
He has splashed out and bought us a little mini filler, or Elliot's bought us a little mini filler, so that does help a little. But it is all very much done by hand, and Sarah and I may moan at Doug quite a lot, but we have great fun doing it.
Well, good. I'm delighted. I'm delighted that also people are in the comments section are singing your praises as well. Although someone is saying Doug is the best, so I think they've missed the
that must be Doug.
Yeah, we see his fake accounts now. No, but to you and Sarah, fantastic packs to be put together, and thank you so much for your Trojan work. And as always, the behind every great man is a great woman, as they say. So we very much appreciate it.
A cup of tea.
Exactly, but it's your second anniversary in Dingle, Graham, isn't that correct?
Yeah,
the two of you?
Last week, yeah. So we've got through the 2-year mark. Some people thought we'd never make it, but I'm still here.
And can I just say, our son, who is a brewing and distilling student in Edinburgh, is watching, but he's also on a society night out, so he's dual jobbing at the moment.
Drinking with both hands.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just, who would have given them the terrible idea to go into brewing and distilling? That I don't know what.
It was his own, not ours.
Exactly. So we've talked about this before, but obviously, Graham, you came from the role in Glenmurray and Elgin. You're now in Dingle. Obviously, it's an exciting time. But one thing I'm very excited about is our sample A here that we have. If you have a tasting kit at home, do feel free to have a look at this at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit about this? I'm going to pour some in my glass, and perhaps we can have a little nose of the new make.
Yeah, in some ways, the pack it has been described as a deconstruction pack, but that's maybe technically not correct. But there is an element to deconstruction if you consider that one of the samples is the raw ingredient, because we're winding the clock back to basically what you've got in bottle A is a sample of single malt new make spirit. So this tasting is more a chance to, I suppose, follow Dingle, the journey that we've got to. We're calling a day on the batch series, so it's nice to kind of go back to the beginning, see where we started from, and once we get to the end of the tasting, we'll have reached the point of batch 6.
Exactly. So this is 100% malted barley, triple distilled, 63%.
65%. Yeah,
65.
I doubt even David Mara could tell the difference between 63 and 65.
A good man for the cask strength crusade, but fantastic. And if anyone, as I said, is tasting along at home, feel free to pour your sample in the glass, have a little nose. I said there's an aging stick as well that has come with these packs. I have some aging here in some new make. If you do want to see what the effect of, even overnight, what the effect in some new make spirit is, do feel free to keep some. It is a fun little experiment that I think many people will enjoy playing around with as well. The
stick is affectionately known as Doug's dipstick.
Well, no one's putting in their whiskey now, Graham.
No.
But yes, so I mean, I suppose a good starting point. There was a question: how old is the liquid in batch, or I suppose sample A? This is effectively straight off the still, so never touched wood in its life.
It is. Although that's a good question, because it's not. It won't be one day old. This we do accumulate our spirit in IBCs until we have a sufficient enough quantity to fill. Quite often it's a container of casks that we'll buy in. So in that, you could have 210 bourbon casks. So that takes us, a couple of months to build up the spirit. But I'd rather do that and bring in the casks and fill them as fresh as possible, rather than having empty casks sitting about and do it the other way around. So yeah, this it could be even a couple of months old, but the maturation clock doesn't obviously start ticking until you put it into wood, into cask.
Exactly, and which is why you're seeing a colorless spirit here. So we'll have a little nose of it. What I really want to know from people in the comments section is what you think as you're tasting along with all of these, because taste and smell is subjective. So what you're going to be able to smell is going to sometimes be quite different than what the rest of us going to be able to smell. And really, unless you say peat, you're not going to be wrong, because this is an unpeated malt. But I'm only saying that to poke a little fun. But I'm going to stick my nose in this now. I'm going to say sláinte to anyone else who has a drink with them. I think, Alan, you've got a glass of it there. Graham, I think you've got a porterhouse beer. I don't know if you've any of the new make sitting in front of you, but
I do have it there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Well, then sláinte to all of you.
I just say to people, it's up to you how far you deep dive into this one. It's 65%. It will obviously have a kick, but a little bit on the nose, and even just a very slightest amount on your tongue, just to allow it to sort of dissipate rather than drink it, and you'll hopefully get the nuances, because new make spirit does have character. Every distillery new make will be different. If you lined them up, you would definitely make points of difference. It's a little bit harder with one new make in front of you for your brain to engage, but for me, it's you're starting to get there's definitely a freshness there. There's almost a bit of dried hay and citrus, lemon zest, lime going on. It's all very fresh and vibrant character at this stage in its life.
And as coming in to a distillery, I suppose in its, I guess you came in its 7th or 8th year, do you think that the distillery has its own character of new make at that point, or can it kind of be melded, or is it more to do with the ingredients in the stills at that point?
I think it has its own character, and so distilleries we do try and keep that consistent. It's the one thing. Yes, you can make different styles of new make, but it gets very complicated and complex to manage beyond that if you have too many variables going on. So it is quite nice to have a baseline and a consistent spirit that, for Dingle now, we're just learning how that spirit interacts with the casks and how that develops. So you're always learning. Obviously, nobody knows what Dingle will taste like at 12 years old yet. So you can have a crystal ball, but every year, everything you learn a little bit more about what's going on.
Absolutely. And when you're, I suppose you mentioned previously that you're laying down, or sorry, you're kind of collating spirit, because you're waiting for the cask to come. And one of the things you don't want to do is dry out your cask or even potentially get any kind of infection. So you're getting cask as fresh as possible. So you're collecting spirit for a little bit. I suppose, how much of a crystal ball are you doing when you're looking at, I suppose, what kind of casks you need or what kind of releases you're going to have in 5, 10, 12 years time? Like as a distiller in general, how much does that play into, I suppose, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think it will vary from distillery to distillery, but I think what is common is that you will always have a core release like we've released this year. So from that point of view, you're sourcing those casks, whichever casks are going into that mix, that makeup. You're sourcing them continuously across the years, and then over and above that, you've got the bit more experimental or the smaller release casks that you'll be using. So you're buying them in, but they're more a spur of the moment purchase and really just seeing what's good out there and grabbing them while you can.
And do you have kind of a core? I presume bourbon would be the backbone of the distillery, as it is most distilleries in Ireland and Scotland. But do you have, I suppose, maybe any fortified wine backbones? We're going to be tasting a port matured whiskey this evening, but is port or Oloroso or PX kind of the backbone then in the fortified wines?
Yeah, we maybe buck the trend slightly, and the quantity that we fill into bourbon cask is not as high as I'm used to. We'd probably only fill around 35-40% into bourbon cask.
Oh wow!
Almost a similar amount into sherry, and of that being a split between Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez mainly, with a few others. So we're quite a nice balance of that almost 50-50 bourbon and sherry, and then with about 10% port and then 10% others on top of that.
Very good. And I suppose the question to Alan, when you were down in the distillery in Dingle, were you able to peek into the warehouse, see any kind of interesting or fun cask that Graham set aside maybe that he's keeping for himself?
There was one or two now. I don't think I could be giving it all away now, Matt. There's possibly some surprises down the line, but there was one or two that really, really piqued my interest. Obviously, port for me is always like, I love those heavy kind of red wine, porty kind of casks. And Graham has openly spoke about that. He's looking at different types of wine casks and stuff. But there was one or two that were a little bit off the cuff now. Like I said, don't think I've been giving it away just yet, because the second you mention it, everybody starts going, what is it? When's it coming out? What's happening? But I know that there will be some really interesting things coming down the line. And I think from what Graham's saying there, like about diving into the new make, like the new make, it'll bring us so much of the way, but it really is almost the kind of beginning of the journey. And like looking at some of the comments coming in there, a lot of people talking about how it's quite distinguishable as Dingle. Like this is the beginning of the journey. So this new make is what sets our footprint. Like master distillers like Graham really kind of set out that their stand on how they want their new make to taste and what they want to do with it. And from being down in the distillery, from almost like taking their time with a 72-hour fermentation process to let it cultivate, to let it do its work, to being extra careful with their cuts while distilling and how they do their work. It sets out the new make to bring us to the next step, to where the casks really take over. And when we talk about Doug's little dipstick there, it's really interesting, people there, if they want to take their new make, put the stick in it. And it might give people like a little bit more of an idea of exactly how the process works. Because, we all talk about understanding, okay, it goes into a barrel clear, it comes out colored. But what's really happening in there is probably one of the really exciting things after we hit our new make. I happened to do mine even a couple of days ago, and we can see there's like a little tinge of brown kind of coming through it. It's really kicking into it. These sticks as well, like, we're not sitting here saying, they come from our port cask, they come from our bourbon cask. These are fresh American oak that have been charred. So you're really going to get a big hit straight away, because it's going to interact a lot quicker. Because they are fresh oak, you're going to get a big interaction. So I'd say within a couple of days, you'll all see a little bit of action coming out, and you might even get a little bit of a kind of a different flavor note, a little bit of a smoother note coming through off the new make. But it really is saying that it's the beginning of the journey now in the new make, and you have to set out where we want to be and where we want to go. And from being there, seeing it and tasting it, even from the still, tasting it all down there, it sets out the footprint for what is Dingle.
I mean, absolutely. There's a lot of people in the comments already talking, and a fantastic cross section, I think, between the sweetness and the spice as well. We're seeing a lot of this. I actually dropped I used the lovely crystal pipette, if you're wondering, in the kit, just there, little crystal pipette. I'm gonna big up this kit as much as I can, because this is fantastic. Dropped it in and a few drops, and I think Declan Hines saying it was strawberries and cream, and that's really, I suppose, a little under current of spice, and then just this fantastic, lovely kind of fruitiness and sweetness and kind of creaminess. But then a lot of people talking about fruit, apples, pears, peppery spice, aniseed, again, pepper, all coming through, citrus, fresh, friendly, a fantastic tasting note from Bitty Line. So I think people are very, very happy to engage in new make from Dingle Distillery by the looks of it. Because this is, I suppose, for most people in the world, you don't, unless really you go on a distillery tour or maybe even an advanced distillery tour, most people aren't sitting at home sipping new make from distillery, and usually don't have the access to sit home and sip on new make. So I think for me, always a fantastic ability or experience to be able to taste and enjoy new make spirit as well at home, because sometimes there's a large amount of work for casks to be doing to round out perhaps some more sharper notes in new make. But there's nothing. This is, in this at least, this is a fantastically drinkable and enjoyable new make as it is. So, and I think the comment section is echoing that.
I definitely I nearly love new makes as much as I like whiskeys, to see the depth and flavor, where they start to where they get to. And that you mentioned those lovely hand blown glass crystal pipettes. like there's almost an unwritten rule or an unspoken rule in the whiskey world where we don't talk about adding water, and we don't do it. But adding water at this strength will actually open up the liquid and give you a lot more flavor. And in a lot of liquids, especially with the ones we're looking at here in their ABV, adding that little bit of water will open up flavors and will soften out some flavors that will give you a totally different world into what we actually drink in our whiskey. So it's always a good thing to do in ways like when you're tasting to barrel and when you're tasting samples, you bring down the ABV to open up those flavors to get it there. So don't be afraid to add a little bit of water with those pipettes and let it open up.
Well, I'm absolutely agreeing. It's one I always say, as long as it's your whiskey, do what you like with it. And I think the water does fantastic justice. Obviously, trying it a little bit at the beginning at the new make strength, and then diluting down as you like. I've my phone is hopping off the table here with Doug texting me saying we're at number 2 on Twitter for Dingle Tasting. So make sure that if you are on social medias, to use the hashtag Dingle Tasting, and if you're on Instagram as well, please feel free to use the exact same hashtag, because that's where the guys at Dingle will be able to find you and other people as well to be able to engage and show us, even in your stories or in your posts, how and what you're enjoying tonight as we watch along. There's a lot of different comments coming through here on the flavor, but resoundingly positive, which is always nice to see. I suppose, Alan, for you, as we sit here a moment with our new make, for you started off a couple of weeks ago, and it's my understanding that a Berlin bar convention was your first day on the job officially.
It was, yes.
Which for anyone who doesn't know, one of the largest international, I suppose, conventions for the on-trade of the world, bars and restaurants. You know, they could have picked a different day for you to start on, but baptism by fire. What was it like, I suppose, coming into the Dingle family and starting in Berlin?
Listen, you know, I'm sure like everybody has their first day in their jobs and they end up in HR for a few hours getting trained and doing this and doing that. I landed in Dublin Airport at 6 o'clock on Monday morning to meet Elliot, Stephen and Doug and Mark and the whole team there. And like, it was amazing to get to that as well, to get that experience. Also to get to know people at a different level. Like you can work with people for a long time and not really get to know them, but to get away like that was fantastic. And they were all so welcoming, except the whole team of them, Elliot, Steve, Doug, Mark, Liam, Jenny, the whole lot of them were fantastic and great to get away with. But to get to Berlin as well, to the BCB, so Bar Common Berlin as it's called, it is the biggest convention in the world for alcohol, and it is really a kind of a trendsetter. Now, different this year compared to other years because of obviously we've had this little thing hanging around us for the last year and a half.
Oh, pray tell.
We don't need to get into it. It's fine.
No. Okay, you keep it a secret then, Alan. That's fine.
But so there was different brands there that weren't there before, and some of the bigger brands you may not have seen there that normally are there were not there. But it was great to get out, even to see the trade together again. Like people, even myself, known guys from some whiskey brands and spirit brands from around the world, get to see them back out. Interesting to see as well. It's always kind of sets the trends globally, where the market's going, where people are expecting things to go. We've seen a big increase in the likes of Italian liqueurs and aperitifs, vermouths. Tequila was quite big, rum was quite big, whiskey quite big on show as well. A real kind of mix of things over there. So a lot of the brands that could have been there weren't there this time, unfortunately, just because of implications from the last year and a half. But it was really cool to get there and to see that alone. Like, what a day! Like as an international brand ambassador, I'm going to hopefully be spending quite a bit of time traveling around. So if we've anybody in here tonight that's not in Dublin, not in Ireland, if you're somewhere in the world, you can keep an eye out. And if you see me popping somewhere in the world, don't be afraid to give a shout, and we can catch up, share a dram, have a gin, have a vodka, and just relax into it and have a quick chat, even lovely over an open fire. But the plan is that I'll be traveling around and getting to spread the good word of Dingle. Exactly.
And I suppose, as you mentioned, like BCB is kind of an international barometer of global bar trends. For you as a, whether new or seasoned brand ambassador, how, I suppose, important from a brand point of view is it to go to shows like that to see the new trends that are coming down the line? Does it inform, choices in packaging or new product development, or is it, I suppose, a bit of fun to head down to the Kit Kat Club or something and you have Yeah.
Oh, listen, you know, we can all have the fun at them as well. We can head up on the kick-out clubs and all that we like, but you're there for work as well, and you're there to see. So depending on, like, we had such an array of people there. We had people like from Doug's side on the marketing side of things. We had Stephen, who's a part of distribution. We had Mark, who's on the design side of things. So everybody gets to see like everybody's going there to see a different element. For me, it was great to see some of the liquids on show, to see what people are doing. It's always really interesting to see what maybe other brands are doing or other kind of categories are doing, to see what they're playing around with. Is there things maybe we're missing out on? I think as Irish whiskey, we really have opened up ourselves to like looking at different style of casks, be it rum casks, wine casks, look at bourbons, other styles of whiskies. Obviously, we're seeing a big influx of like Hungarian oaks and different types of oaks coming out. It's always really good to see what people are doing, to see maybe what we can look at from a production standpoint, from a flavor standpoint. But then for the guys in, like I said, marketing and design, to see maybe what other guys doing. What are the other stands like? How can we bring something new, like Whiskey Live next year? We're hoping to bring something quite new as a stand that might be a small part of the here aforementioned secret location that I'm sitting in right now. But looking at packaging, what are the other brands doing? And sustainability is obviously a big piece. What can we do better? And there's a goal within the distillery to get ourselves to be carbon neutral, to be green. So what are other people doing that maybe we need to look at and see how we can progress that ourselves? And just you get to engage, you get to talk, you get to network with people and maybe talk to them and learn how they're doing it, learn from their expertise. So these are massive, massive things. Obviously, we've all most likely all been to Whiskey Live in Dublin or Whiskey Lives all over the world where we see all these people come together and it's amazing doing the shows. But what happens in the background of these things is just as important, getting to know everybody around you, getting to know everybody in the trade, getting to know the other distilleries. It is one big community, and it's our time to come together as well and explore and be a part of that community.
Absolutely. And perhaps I'll segue to Graham for a moment. And Graham, I'm going to start pouring our sample B here. But while I'm pouring this, for you, I suppose, coming from the Scottish industry, coming to the Irish industry, in terms of what Alan's saying, you know, going abroad, meeting different people, I suppose interacting with distillers or you know, brand teams from the likes of, say, Italy or Germany or the Netherlands, or even now being in Ireland, interacting with perhaps old colleagues in Scotland. What I suppose, how important is that experience of exposing yourself to the different ideas and different people in terms of, I don't know, knowing the world scene, growing, getting ideas, you know, I suppose the world of being a master distiller?
Yeah, I think you have to look, you know, out with your boundaries. I think, you know, in Irish whiskey especially, it's growing from a very small start, and you know, give it. And we all know in 5-10 years it'll be a much different place. So, you know, you need to create your own niche within that. But we're also competing, you know, with Scotch whiskey and other dark spirits around the world. You do need to keep pace of what's going on, but again, you also need to remain true to type as well. I think you need, we'll go back to the new make spirit and how consistent that is. You know, I think that is the strong point of whiskey, whether it's got an E in it or not an E in it. People are comfortable with what whiskey is, and it's, you know, well protected, and you know what you're getting. So that, you know, that for me is always the most important thing. But it doesn't stop you having a look around and trying different things either. Before
I stick my nose into sample B and ask you what we're sampling here, when you go abroad yourself and fare off on your holidays off somewhere nice, are you tempted? Do you go to the local distillery? Do you do the tour, or is it completely switched off when you're abroad?
Oh, no. We would do the tour.
Try Australia, Starward, try Goa.
I tried to get into the distillery without paying, though. That's probably through the back door. But no, we've been welcomed across the world. It's lovely when that kind of feeling when you can go to you know, the other side of the world, Starward, wet Sunday afternoon in Melbourne, and I rolled in there. They weren't particularly open. They were setting up for a child's birthday party of all things, and I rolled out of there an hour and a half later, having sampled about 10 different styles of whiskey from them, and that was me just coming in off the street. And again, one other example, going in Goa, going to Paul John and meeting Michael there. He took us into his office, and again, similar treatment. We were given VIP treatment, and we just appeared there.
Well, no, that was thanks to Shilton,
There was
the brand
connection
ambassador.
with Shilton, yeah, thanks to him as well. But but hopefully we extend that friendship out as well. If anybody comes to Dingle, you're always welcome to come in and say hello, and we'll show you what we're doing. Hopefully there are big plans to develop the distillery, which we should hear fairly soon on. So
can I just interrupt? There was one really interesting question. It was from Hano65, I think, Matt.
Okay, yeah, I'll have a look for it here.
How is the new make that they've just tasted in any way similar to what would have been filled in the port casks that you used for batch 6?
Okay. Well, yeah, I think the question, hopefully it is the same. We're winding the clock back, but the recipe for Dingle has been, it's pretty much been unchanged since day one. So yeah, hopefully you could put your hand on it and say that is what's there, but just wind the clock forward between 6 and 7 years in a port cask.
Because as you've alluded to a couple of times, one of the key skills of a master distiller is consistency. There's the romantic idea of being a rogue and distilling everything and anything you want all day, every day, but consistency of spirit, character, and quality is one of the most important characteristics of I suppose your role. Would that be correct?
Oh, definitely. You're setting the foundations for the future. Way beyond the point that I'll be here, and so you need to lay down the foundations, the building blocks that beyond my tenure they can build on, and keep pushing forward. But I'm well used to at Glenmurray. I inherited all the stock from Ed Dodson, some great stock to work with, and you just add your little bit of character to it, but at the end of the day, the distillery is the distillery, and that's what you should be looking after.
Fantastic. Well, with no further delay, why don't you tell us what's in sample B, and we can get our noses and our palates stuck into this? Yeah,
so this is kind of moving away from the deconstruction element, but I wanted to put in B because when we speak about batch 6, we're speaking about a full maturation in tawny port. So we're reaching the stage now. The stock is of an age at Dingle where we're starting to go down the single cask type route rather than combining different cask types together to create the character. So this is Dingle purely and simply in an ex-bourbon cask, and for me it's the natural progression from the new make sample to see Dingle 7 years on, but with probably the least amount of cask influence that you'll get. Bourbon is very subtle on the spirit, but it does have a lovely influence. But it does allow the spirit to come through. So this one is more to enjoy, pick up the character of the ex-bourbon, but also when we move on to C, then move between the two, B and C, and compare and contrast, because then you're comparing full maturation ex-bourbon against full maturation in a port cask.
So perfect. So sample B is a what ABV?
It's at 46.5%.
Okay. And so what I'm going to do myself, and I'll invite anyone at home, I'm going to keep a sample of B here in a glass. Now I've intentionally set up two glasses in my setup here. So would it be fair to say to have I'm going to have a sample of B and a sample of C, and then to be able to kind of compare and contrast at that point to see the kind of differences? Because as you said, B is a full maturation in bourbon, and C is a full maturation in port, which is what is being released as batch 6, the final batch, I suppose the final numbered batch release from Dingle Distillery. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. And as I said earlier, it's much easier to jump between two whiskies and work out in your brain or your imagination what the differences are, rather than just to look at one whiskey in isolation. So, and bourbon and the port, hopefully you people will find differences in them. They are they are different. There are similarities as well, but if nothing else, look at the color. The color tells you that something different has gone on in those.
Exactly. Well, I'll see if I can have the color difference there. Yeah, just show the back of the bottle. So, and would B and C be matured for a similar amount of time?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same time. So again, they've reached the same level of maturity, but you can see that the ex-bourbon cask it's got the Scottish or Irish suntan. It's never going to be a bronzed Adonis in the bottle, but don't let color be everything. You don't need fake tan to make a whiskey. Just look beyond that and shut your eyes actually and just nose the whiskey and taste it, and bourbon attributes, or the attributes that come from a bourbon cask, or your lovely, your toffee, vanilla, your fudge, your ice cream again. So it's adding some similar characters to what people were picking up in the new make, but it's also adding a different kind of sweetness. So that citrus sweetness is less now than it was in the new make. You're into a kind of I'd say more a sugary sweetness rather than a citrus sweetness.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to pour myself a little of sample C for a comparison. So why don't you give us a quick rundown of what C is, so people know what to expect in this little sample.
So C is batch 6, which is as we've said, is our final release in the batch series. Don't worry, it's not the end of limited releases at Dingle. We will continue, but they'll be in a different format, and they'll probably be a little more flexible in terms of volume, quantity, maybe even how they look. Doug likes to change the colour of the capsule every now and again, so I'm sure he'll have his influence there.
I will say that this is the first release with a purple tinge on the capsule and the label and the tin. Let us know in the comments. We're very interested to know what you think of the purple. That's something we do want to know. I did departure from, batch 1. We started with the yellow tinge with the red capsule, and we kept the red all along. So I'd like to hear people's thoughts on the purple. But back into sample C here. So this is batch 6. So and the ABV on this is.
So this is batch 6 at 46.5%. So this is the release that you'll be able to buy. We did, and we'll maybe be able to try it later. We did release 1,000 bottles of cask strength as well, which normally we only do 500. We increased it to 1,000 to help or try and meet the demand, but they've all gone as well. So.
They never hang around.
No, and understandably, it's the final one of the batch releases. So if you'd had batch 1 to 5, you'd definitely be wanting to try and get batch 6 as well. So I can understand that, but again, hopefully, when we break into the new, more limited edition releases, that there'll be whiskies that will be opened rather than shut away in a cupboard and kept. So that but it is nice to see Dingle being open and drunk more now than we were, say, 2 or 3 releases ago.
Absolutely. There's a resounding love for the purple in the comment section here. I do see Brendan Lynch saying he's sad that he's the whole lineup of the bottles red the whole way along until purple at the end. So it's only the end cap. That's what you need. It's like a bookshelf. You need the end cap. And Barry wants to know, is a purple an influence from a Coull tartan, or is it a Doug creation?
No, but this is a Doug creation. This goes along with this will go down in history with a dipstick. That things that we remember Doug Lennon for. Can't think of much else to remember him for, but those 2 will go down in history.
Oh, listen, we'll have no doubt years of poking fun at Doug, so it'll be one of the resounding factors of the live streams. I have my 2 glasses here, Alan. I don't know if you have 2 glasses or if you're
right there.
If you're going between them now, what are you finding between the 2 obviously the full bourbon maturation and the full port maturation, incredibly different beasts.
Definitely, yeah. Like within the bourbon, you're going to get a little bit more kind of sugary. We can see the notes coming through there. People are talking about toffee. Like with bourbon casks, you're getting that char, you're getting those toffee, creme brulee, those kind of burnt sugar kind of notes coming out of it. A little bit softer on the nose as well than the port. But it still has a really kind of distinct, kind of lighter style of flavor. With the port cask, we're obviously getting just immense color out of it. You're actually getting almost like a crossover with tannins coming from the wine as well. So it creates a different kind of flavor experience. When you have those tannins involved, it almost has a little drying effect on your mouth as well. But that drying effect can actually create a bit more flavor for you. So we're getting more of those kind of fruity kind of notes. We're getting kind of softer kind of notes off the port, but it has a big body to it coming from that color and coming from the flavor that's come from that barrel. Like both fantastic liquids, but when you even just compare them like to like, the port just kind of shines out with that golden hue.
That's certainly quite the color difference. And Graham, from your point of view, what do you prefer working with? What's easier to work with in terms of an actual distillery day-to-day point of view?
I think it depends. As the whiskey matures, the distillery gets older, the casks that are becoming better to work with, if that's the phrase, it's changing all the time. In the very early days, bourbon casks worked well because they were very close to the spirit character, so they weren't confusing things in any way. And then maybe as we got into batches, 3, 4, and into 5, 4 and 5, really, the sherry casks were starting to come through as being as more dominant at that time. But now, as I say, we're now into more looking at single cask types. I really, and I'm seeing a bit of love for the bourbon sample here, which is great to see, because I do have a soft spot for whiskey matured in bourbon casks, and I think it's a little bit maybe not underrated, but it's a little bit forgotten about. So again, getting to try sample B, that's a little bit of what you'll see from Dingle in the future is more straightforward bourbon cask releases. And that, again, is also it's probably the best way to define a distillery's character is to drink its whiskey at 12 years old in ex-bourbon casks. You really will get the full picture then. But on the other side, working with full maturation port casks, you don't often get that chance. They're not as common in the industry. So being able to do a full maturation release is great. You will see port finishes out there. They're a little bit more straightforward to do. They're quicker to do, if nothing else. But a full maturation port is a completely different thing from the finish.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take some. I've been playing with my pipette here, so I'm going to drop a little water into each of these. Have a little fun. And then I suppose in terms of the actual port you used, I've seen a lot of questions coming through. Was Tawny or Ruby, or I saw someone asking about late bottle vintages as well. But what was there a particular style used?
These are Tawny port casks. More recently we have taken a combination of the two. So in the future we'll be able to again do a bit of fun, maybe comparing, contrasting the two styles of port. But still tending to go down the route of full maturation port rather than port finishing, particularly because I think it's just something. Full maturation casks in Dingle have worked well, and it's probably something that is part of our core. Not to say we wouldn't do finishes as well, but you will see that, but maybe in slightly different casks than the mainstream ones we've used.
Absolutely. And I see some questions coming in here as well from Conor O'Hare up in Warren Point. I suppose I am currently drinking a lovely Porterhouse Imperial Stout finish that came from a Dingle cask. Is there likely to be any kind of beer finishes from Dingle, maybe reciprocal Porterhouse, or even maybe some more experimental releases in terms of cask finishes? I'm going to put Alan on mute for 1 second. Just There's a few Lewis Bings going by, but the ambulances might have done a little bit. Good old Dublin City. But sorry, Graham, back to you.
Yes, we have this obviously great relationship with the brewery that we can send casks to them, and they made it must be 3 now different beer finishes. So in the first couple, we have taken some of the casks back, and I'm trying different things with it. I've tried single malt, mature single malt, going back into them, and mature pot still, and also some new make spirit. So just letting them age really, because the spirit I put in there, the mature spirit, wasn't particularly old, so it needs a bit more time in maturation and also picking up the beer character. But beer finished whiskies are, they're always a bit more subtle than you actually probably think they're going to be. The beer doesn't impart too much character on the final product, so it's more a subtle twist than whereas the whiskey mature beer is a different
exactly.
Beast. It's got a kick.
Well, fantastic. So I'm going to I have my 2 samples here. I'm still going to enjoy these a little bit. Alan, excuse me, you're held up in a very noisy Dublin spot there. And I know that you've perhaps some hints to give us as what might be coming down the line, or what you might be getting up to in a Dublin city centre area, but with hints of Dingle behind you by the looks of it.
You've been quite astute in guessing that. Yeah, you figured that out. Although somebody was telling me earlier not to look behind me. I don't know what was going on. Yes, so we do have a location to open quite soon in Dublin City Centre, where for the Christmas period across November, December, we are going to open up a small little Dingle pop-up bar where you can try our fantastic gin, whiskey, vodka in some bespoke cocktails, which one of the first jobs I had once starting was actually to put together a nice little menu. So the idea behind the menu is that we really want to make the spirit shine, bring through the flavors of our spirits and some really nice cocktails, while also actually using some local product from the Dingle region. So we have the likes of the Skellig Jam Company. We have Green Kerry, they take care of fruit preserves, and we've got the west of Dingle salt. It's a hand-harvested salt straight from the Atlantic Ocean. All local ingredients from Dingle actually going into the cocktails. So this will be opening up hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Somebody's even trying to guess there. Sirens coming down Dawson Street is your guess. Might not be far off, but we'll definitely keep an eye out. You'll see it going up online. You'll see us talking about it. Everybody, of course, is invited to be able to book online. It's only a small place. We only fit about 20 people max, but it's just something that we really wanted to do to kind of bring the brands to life and to kind of give an idea to people how we can explore the brands. So we're like sitting here drinking these fantastic spirits straight. But what else can we do with them? What else can we play with them? I concocted up a buttered spiced butter, which I actually have with the whiskey. I put it with the gin as well. So it's a hot buttered kind of rum riff using some of our own products. Works fantastic on a nice kind of night as well, especially as the winter's coming in. But we look forward to having everybody in. Like I said, just keep an eye on social media. You'll get to see a lot more of it. It'll be a 10-12 drink menu across all our brands, but our own little riffs on things.
And what kind of days of the week would you be seeing this open? Is it a 7-day a week? Is it a Thursday to Sunday kind of job?
So it'll be a Thursday to Saturday in the beginning, but I suppose the answer to that question I can put back on everybody here and everybody who wants to get there. The more you want to be here, the more we'll open it. But for the beginning, it'll be Thursday to Saturday, and if we see a real want for people to get down, to try it out, if there's other nights they want to get in, we can look at expanding it further. But for the moment, it'll be Thursday to Saturday. Well, it'll be available on Open Table online. You'll be able to book. You'll be able to pop in.
Well, I was going to mention, I said to Doug earlier, with COVID restrictions lifting and Ireland having such a fantastic vaccination rate, my work travel is starting up again. So for the next 6 weekends, I'm gone Friday through Tuesday for 6 weeks in a row. I'm in different parts of Europe. So I said to Doug, I was hounding him. I wanted to know was it open on Thursdays because it's going to be the only day I can make it in. So I'm delighted to hear Thursdays will be available in this new secret location. Can you like turn the camera 90 degrees or something? Give us a sneak peek without telling us the location.
I can now. I'm not. There's installs happening at the moment, so everything is a little bit rough and ready. But we can give you a quick little look around. This is going up. That's going to be the bar area up there. Beautiful copper finish on the bar. The other side of the room is quite dark. You might not get to see a lot of it, and the streets are blocked. So if anybody's thinking, "Oh, I can look out the window there and see what's going on," you won't even know that. It's all quite secret for us. When you're in here, probably one of the best parts is when you're in here, nobody's going to know you're in here.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that's happening, and I'm furious. I know nothing about where this is or what's going on, so I need to get to this bar. You book me in for Thursday, and I can't wait. Exactly.
What do you mean delighted to have you down? No, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting, and it's not. The whole idea is to let the brand shine. It's not about trying to take things too seriously. It's about we want people to come in and enjoy themselves, enjoy their drinks, relax. It's going to be an interesting, like I said, things are relaxing. It's going to be an exciting Christmas ahead of us. We'll have plenty of dipsticks. I see them popping up there. But it's going to be really exciting and really interesting. Hopefully it'll be a great way for people to get to explore the brands as well and see them in a different light. I know during the last year and a half and that thing that we said we weren't talking about, people have been experimenting at home, trying a few drinks, but this is another extension of that. So hopefully you're going to enjoy it.
Fantastic.
And I say hopefully you will.
Exactly. Graham, a question's come in from Carl Fleming, a good Dingle whiskey fan. He's wondering about your intervention or involvement in the gin side of Dingle. Obviously, Master Distiller, the gin is in your hands. He's saying his wife is a very big Dingle gin fan, and he wants to know, is there anything, as he puts it, jazzy coming down the line for Dingle gin? Perhaps in terms of recipes or rebrands or anything like that?
We're always looking at different options for all our products, but I think the most imminent thing could be a bit of jazzy packaging on the gin available before Christmas. So it could be a very good gift idea for anybody out there who's got a gin friend that they would like to buy for. So yeah, maybe something.
I'm my own gin friend. Can I buy it also?
Yeah, you can. We don't quite have the packaging yet. That's why I'm a bit hesitant about it all. But I'm promised that it will be in, and we'll have it back out before Christmas.
Absolutely, because the current bottle is already the very historic Dutch gin style bottle. Was one of the things I kind of gravitated towards first. The I suppose, ironically, in my head, the vodka bottle is very much that blue style Dutch gin bottle. So are we seeing a departure from the recognizable style into a new design, or just kind of a refresh?
No. We're refreshing the bottle as a refresh, but also could be a little bit of outer packaging as well to make it a little bit more exciting.
Exactly. In this world, if anyone doesn't know, raw materials and supply chain are horrendous right now. So I feel for you, Graham, and I appreciate that you can't give too much away. Yeah. Well, I suppose at this point, we only have one sample left. So perhaps we should jump right into, I'm going to keep sample C in my glass and maybe give my other glass a little rinse and pour a little sample of D in, if you're okay with that.
I think, Matt, there was one kind of point in the difference between the B and the C as well, and it can be the consumers out there, they generally seem to see whiskey as the deeper the color, the kind of better. We're like, look at the fantastic feedback we got on the bourbon there. It's quite lighter in color, but we can see the flavor coming through. And I know if anything is going to come out of tonight, Graham's comment about there's no fake tan in whiskey is definitely going to stand out for me. That the color is only half the work. It's the flavor that's really there and the nose we're getting off it, and we can see it there. Although the port is so much more deeper in color, looks like there's a lot more to it. The bourbon really shines out as well, and we see it in the comments from everybody how well it went down.
Absolutely, and as well as you've noticed, these are only samples. No age statement on these, and no one's complained. That's one of the things I find funny, and Alan and Graham will know a little bit, between them as well. I work in export sales, and the differences around the world. You see some markets really are concerned about the age in the bottle, and some are just concerned about how it tastes. And it's very funny seeing the differences in the popularity of different spirits and different flavors. And in some markets, if it doesn't say 10 or 12 on the bottle, I'm not buying it. It could be the best whiskey in the world, but it doesn't say 10, not buying it. And obviously the age and the color does not delineate the fantastic qualities of the spirit. So I'm delighted you've made that point. But sample D. Graham, can you give us an insight? ABV first of all, and then what are we tasting?
So sample D is the cask strength version of batch 6. As I say, we released 1,000 bottles of it. They have they're all gone, or practically all gone anyway. Always very popular cask strength Dingle, but it's give this, at least a tasting like this gives people a chance to try it if they couldn't get the bottle themselves. So this comes in at cask strength, which is 60.4% for this particular release. So it's it's up there, strong enough. The new make spirit you tried was at 65, so it shows you that the strength does drop off a little bit with maturation, but not massively. On average you'll lose about 0.5% per year. So you're still up there with you've turned into a dog, Matt. Or maybe it's
sorry, yeah, she was squeaking a pig, and it sounded like I was farting on microphone, so I didn't want that to continue. So I just
for that, yeah.
My apologies. So yeah, and as Gary Mills has mentioned here as well, just on my previous comment, he said, "Listen, crap spirit will still be crap in 20 years. If it's not young spirit or even medium age spirit, it doesn't matter about the age statements." So I'm delighted, at least Gary coming in from the Scotch whiskey industry and watching in and agreeing with me here. So I have been very excited to try this, because I, for one, was not one of the people that got a bottle of the cask strength, and I'm delighted that, Graham, you chose to include it. So thank you very much. That's a thank you from me. So we have a little sip, and feel free to
with
any other.
It's always a best to tread a little bit carefully, because it's up there in strength. So, but the best person, or the best way to work out whether it needs anything added to it, and generally I would say it would need a bit of water, but is just have a little sip first, and and if you're recoiling from it, if it's too hefty for you at that, then you do know that you need to a few drops, and probably more than a few drops. It's not just one little drop and it'll be fine. Cask strength will take a reasonable amount of water, but it gives you the chance to try and find where your own sweet spot is. And our sweet spot will be different now for all of us, now that we've tasted 3 whiskies beforehand. So we are, we've increased our pain threshold for cask strength. But I would still suggest that you maybe want, if you have water to hand, add a few drops. Just don't add in the new make to it by mistake, otherwise you'll be a short evening tonight.
And just before you take a sip there, Graham, someone did say they missed what the ABV was. So I just want to
60.4.
Exactly. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, as a little bit higher than what we've been tasting so far. So stay staunch, you guys. And Graham, thank you so much, and Doug as well for including this in the pack. Alan, staunch it. An entirely different drinking experience or imbibing experience than at 46, and wonderfully so. The variation in spirit flavors.
Well, but in other ways, sometimes cask strength can be a little more closed, because it is dominant. The alcohol can be dominant, so So some of the fruitiness maybe isn't quite as dominant as it would be in the in the standard 46.5. So different things come through at different strengths, and I think that's the beauty of whiskey. And the beauty of this one is you can have 3 or 4 different whiskies in this glass by just adding a little water first and a little bit more and a little bit more. Just as I say, just until you feel the point is right for yourself.
Absolutely. And if people are to add some water now, is a couple of drops you'd say, or to go slowly, or how do you personally do it?
Looking at 3-4 drops, and a drop is basically as if you don't have you should have your fancy dropper, but if you can't work it, a drop is basically as little water as you can shake out of a jug or a bottle of water that you can actually physically put in. So this is where it helps to have a shaky hand. You add water perfectly.
Exactly. I'm seeing a lot of very positive comments coming through here, and actually interesting. A few people saying that the bourbon so far has been their favorite of the evening, which is also very positive for me to see. A lot of that distillery character coming through in the bourbon as well. So not only are we getting a fantastic introduction to the batch 6 and the port and the cask strength port, but also the bourbon getting a lot of love as well, which is very nice. And let us know in the comment section as well what flavors you're tasting as we go through, because as I said, everyone's flavor profiles are subjective. And let us know when you're online with hashtag Dingle Tasting, because at the moment I think we're still trending number 2. I'd love to see a number 1 get in there as well. So but Alan, what are your thoughts on this cask strength?
Listen, it's fantastic. I think there was a really interesting comment there by, I think it was Bar McHugh, about how with the cask strength bringing a lot more intense in the aroma. And for people who may or may not be in the know, and we know people love cask strengths and they're always calling for cask strengths, to go into my nerdy side of when I was looking at spirits and looking at cocktails, the lesson I learned at one point was that when you look at how we taste and how we smell, the molecules that dictate aromatics are actually very similar to the molecules that dictate alcohol strength. So the higher we go in alcohol strength, the more we're going to get aromatically. But obviously we have a knock-on effect that the higher we go in alcohol strength, we're going to have a lot more astringent ethanol coming through on the flavor. So it's about getting that real balancing act to getting your aroma right by your strength, but also getting the flavor in your whiskey. So when that point Barra made, actually saying that he's getting a lot more intense aroma, you will get that in a cask strength. And that can be one of the most amazing things about a cask strength. It really opens up the nose and it really becomes quite beautiful to you. And then you're getting the strength. But even at this, like this is 60.4%. Like this is not tasting like it's 60.4%. You could have told me this is about 45 in and around and I would have believed you, because it's so smooth. It has a nice kind of mellow finish to it. There's good notes coming through there. Like there's dried fruits, kind of berries, sultanas, raisins coming off of it. And it is just kind of opening up flavor. Like it's fooling me as a 60.4% because it's just not tasting like that at all. It's just so smooth at the end that you wouldn't catch the ethanol. You don't catch the strength of it.
Absolutely. Obviously, very. Sorry, Graham.
The cask strength, I think it's more sherry-like almost than, whereas at 46.5, it's more wine-like, and I think that's where Alan's come through. The alcohol is having a big effect here on how it comes across to you as you taste it.
There's innumerable questions about whether or not there's anything similar to Sample D that's available to buy, and unfortunately the cask strength releases every year from Dingle are few and far between. And as Graham, you already mentioned, the 1,000 bottles of cask strength, which is our Sample D here, has already sold out. That's correct?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, but I think as we go forward, Dingle will, especially with our limited releases, we probably will look at having some higher strength releases and in more quantity and more frequency, hopefully. So, yeah, there will be a chance in the future to be able to source Dingle at maybe not full blown cask strength, but somewhere in between, which again is quite a nice strength to drink from.
Exactly. And I suppose this is the last batch 6 now is the last of the batch releases as we know them. I believe there will be one more batch release of the Potstilled batch number 5, which is I'm sure a lot of people's are awaiting with bated breath. Graham, I hope you're loving every minute of working with unmalted barley and converting all that mash. What, if I'm allowed to ask, does the world look like of Dingle whiskey when batch 6 malt and batch 5 pot still have launched and sold?
Well, I think, you've seen on the single malt side, we've released the Dingle Single Malt, which is a permanent expression on that side. I would like to think that on the pot still side we'll be able to do something very similar. So you'll be able to access a Dingle pot still regularly. It's maybe a year and a bit away, but what you will see, in the near future is Dingle appearing in different cask guises, different maybe some finishes out there, and also don't forget there's some Dingle peated spirit quietly maturing away. So that
And how is that coming along?
Oh, it's beautifully coming along. Yeah. No, it's I think it's doing fine. I was happy with the spirit and put it into some again bourbon and a combination of sherry casks. So we'll be able to see how that comes. And peated spirit, peated whiskies can generally be drunk a little bit younger. So a 4, 5, 6-year-old mark is not unheard of for peated whiskies. So we're not far. We're 2 years in already. Almost.
The last time I had a sample of the Dingle peated whiskey, I think it was at a 6-month mark in bourbon, and I was given it blind, and I would have sworn it was a 4, 5, 6-year-old spirit. So coming along flyingly, no doubt. And about 15 people asking now, peated, how long for peated? A couple of years out for your influence of the peated malt from Dingle. Would that be about a good estimation?
I think so. Well, I'm sure there'll be something, maybe a small release, possibly a couple of years. But yeah, it probably needs a couple of years after that even to be right. But this is why Alan and myself never mention anything too specific, because the first question, or you're hounded until it's released. So sometimes we're better not to say anything. But no, there's interesting things coming with Dingle, and we're a bit more stock to play with. And obviously we've got the rebuild of the distillery coming along, which is no small project in itself. So plenty to get our teeth into.
Absolutely, and the I believe that the planning permission for the new distillery build is the approval is expected in the next few days. So it should be quite topical and in the news in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we should hear very, very soon, and and hopefully it's a good news story, because seeing investment in a visitor facility and also a distillery at this time is maybe seen as being brave, but it's the right time for Dingle. And when Dingle started in 2012, people asked the same questions: is it the right time, or why would you? But I think hopefully tonight we're proved that the ideas back then were very sensible, and we're all glad that Dingle is here for us.
There's
Absolutely.
one question from a Barry who says, "What age do you like drinking your whiskey, Graham?" And obviously not at your own age.
I was going to say 53 is quite a good age, but I started earlier than that. Yeah, here again, I'm a bit like everybody else. I think I've had my eyes open to younger whiskies without an age statement. Certainly saw them in Scotland. Probably 5 years ago they started, maybe longer than that now. And I'll say as long as the spirit's good and the casks are good, then 6 years on, you're definitely got a whiskey that's worth drinking.
Fantastic. And Graham, to anyone, I suppose, out there, you've a fantastic experience in the industry. For anyone out there that is longing to join the whiskey industry, be it in a production guise, Do you have any suggestions of what people should be looking at if they want to jump in or even just dip their toes, or anything you'd suggest in terms of what people should do, or just from a professional or an amateur point of view?
Yeah, I think hopefully there's huge opportunities, especially in Ireland, with the growth of the distilleries to get in, and there is a shortage of experience. You just don't have people who've worked in the industry that long. But just get your foot into the door any way you can. Whether it be as a tour guide or brand ambassador, great role to get into to pick up experience. And then if you fancy, if Alan fancies digging out the mash on a more regular basis, we might take him into production. But he needs to prove himself in the brand ambassador role first.
Fantastic. And if you were looking, would you look at the WSETs or perhaps even more so the GCDs, or even Harriet Watt, or if people were looking maybe Carlo for distilling and brewing?
Yeah, again, it depends on your own makeup. If you're one of these that likes to study and likes to get an exam under your belt, then all those are very useful, and you'll gain a lot of experience. But if you're more practical, hands-on, then just get yourself into the business somehow, and just show keenness, show interest, and maybe pick up the jobs that nobody else wants to do, because you then become indispensable because you can then do those jobs. So sometimes you have to do a bit of dirty work first, and then create your own niche, and you, as we all know, you create your own way in this world. So it's just a case of getting your head down and go for it.
Exactly. So it's a lot more of an attitude than anything else. The positive attitude and the want to do and learn, I suppose, is important. And I suppose for Alan, kind of a similar question. You've new in this role, but for those, you've a long history in the drinks business. For those who are looking longingly at brand ambassadors and marketeers and salespeople, do you have any advice for people that would hope to get into the industry?
Yeah, well, it's just like a lot of it is learning. I remember years ago when I started in the bar trade, and I'm going to show a little bit of my age here now, and I go towards the advent of like readily available stuff on Google all the time. Google was still there. I'm not that old, but I remember asking advice on where to go in the bar world and how to get where I wanted to get to and how to learn. And I was told to read. And I remember thinking, but I'm talking about making drinks here and bartending. What's reading have to do with this? But to understand where we're going, we kind of have to understand where we came from, to understand where the drinks are, the trade, how we do what we do. And obviously, when it comes to whiskey, the base level of education of how is whiskey made, what is aging, what is distilling, what is all this about. So anybody with aspirations to get that, it really is making sure you have the knowledge down first, but just getting out and getting involved. Like I said, this whole industry is like one big family, and we get together every once in a while, and we all get to see each other, and we all catch up, and we all chat. But it's being at those things like Whiskey Lives, being at events, being at these types of things, and getting your name out there, getting seen. You get recognized pretty quickly as well. And as you work on it, it can always help. But it's very much about just knowing your stuff, getting educated, and making yourself available, and being there can be some of the biggest things as a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, we've a lot to keep an eye on with Dingle Distillery at the moment. A whole new distillery, I suppose, refit and rebuild. Graham, I'm no doubt you're going to be run ragged. So I wish you the best of luck with that. Alan, starting off your career, international, almost an oxymoron. International brand ambassador, fair enough. But I asked you off camera what your territory was, and you said global. So really global brand ambassador at that point. Will people find you anytime soon in any international markets to keep an eye out?
Yeah, we have a couple of small things. Well, when I say small, we have a couple of things coming up. We'll be at the Athens Bar Show, which is the equivalent to BCB, another quite big kind of drinks convention. We'll be in The Hague for a whiskey festival. Obviously, next year in Ireland, we'll have Whiskey Live. And hopefully we'll have a lot more things coming up, traveling to the likes of the US, Germany, the UK. We've just started distribution in countries like China, in the Middle East. So God knows where I could pop up at any point.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it'll always, but like I said, I can tell you exactly where I'll be for the next couple of weeks, and we'll let you in on another little kind of treat on this. There was questions about the location, about Dawson Street and that area. I can tell you it's very close to that area, and if you are looking for it and if you see it pop up, the pop-up bar will be called the Wren Bar, after the Wren boy that is depicted on our labels. So look out for the Wren Bar, and that's where you'll find us in the pop-up.
Very nice. I love it. And for anyone that doesn't know, Athens Bar Show is fantastic. So I'm very jealous. I'm not heading there this year, so I hope you hold down the fort for the Irish. But I'll see you in The Hague. So if anyone is in the Netherlands, fantastic. Well, actually, my favorite show of the year to go to. So great to see good Irish representation there. So to Graham, to Alan, Faye, Sarah, and Doug, as well as Elliot Hughes, who's I think sunning himself at the moment, so I'm not sure if he's watching or not. But to all of the Dingle team, thank you so much. For everyone watching at home, I very much appreciate it. Literally, the numbers have held exactly for the entire show, which is fantastic to see. The kits that we had delivered throughout the week, be it the hat. Again, I'm obsessing about this hat, so I'm going to be wearing this without fail. I'm going to put it on right now. Fantastic whiskeys, fantastic kit. I think everyone has engaged through the comments section. Do let us know in the comment section now what your order of your favorite spirits were. I saw a lot of people who had a sample A as their favorite, which I think is fantastic to see the new make coming through so strongly. But let us know in your sample of your favorites, because everyone, as I said, everyone has a subjective tasting tastes and flavors. So let us know. But this has been a fantastic evening, guys. It as Graham, you said, it was kind of a deconstruction, but more of a tasting and a brought through from the beginning of the spirit to the end. And Alan, I do want to bring you back in for one more point, if you have the moment for it.
Yeah, and there's even just, obviously, as we spoke about Doug's famous dipsticks, when you're putting it in your new make, if they keep us up to breast of what's going on, if get it up on Twitter, send it online, let us know, show us what's happening, show us the color you're getting, and give us a show of exactly how they work for yourselves. We'd love to see it. With the hashtag Dingle Tasting. So you got to get it in there. I was just about to say it. You got to it before me. I'm loving everyone's coming through with their favorites here. D and the cast strength, getting a huge amount of love. Thank you so much, guys. If we're going to keep an eye out, if people want to buy bottles of this fantastic whiskey, I also know I checked before this. If you can buy the hats, you can buy the hats. So will be a few available in a couple of weeks, I believe, in the run up to Christmas. There won't be too many, but I believe there's a couple available on the Dingle Distillery web store, which is where I'm assuming you can also buy the Dingle Distillery Batch 6 Single Malt. Correct me if I'm wrong. I am assuming that is also where you can buy it, because I didn't check that. That would have been clever to check. But also, Alan's wearing a Dingle Distillery t-shirt, which is fantastic. But secondly, the Dingle Distillery hoodies are one of the best branded hoodies I've ever owned. I own about 3 or 4 of them now in different colors. That I literally got one and then became obsessed with it because it's so comfortable. You need to own one of these hoodies. That's all I'm saying. Go to the Dingle Distillery web store and buy a hoodie and just swaddle yourself in comfiness. Because there's a print and stitching and multiple. It's just everything about it I love. It's branded clothing is hard to do well, and the Dingle hoodie is one of is categorically my favorite hoodie on Irish whiskey industry. That's all I'm going to say. But go to the Dingle Distillery web store. So you're going to get your hats in a few weeks, your hoodies, your t-shirts, and of course Dingle Batch 6. So guys, thank you so much for your time. Faye, Sarah, Doug, Elliot, for everyone in the background as well. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep an eye out for some fantastic releases, including sometime in the future, the last release of the Potstilled as well, which I'm sure we're all incredibly excited about. And thank you to everyone for joining in. Thank you from Dingle. Yes, thank you very much. You were nice to me on my first night, so I'll remember this, man.
It's because we slagged off Doug too much.
Yeah, Doug took all the slagging there. I particularly like Mike Ross's there, but Doug took all the slagging tonight, so I'm quite happy with that.
Well, Sláinte lads, thanks so much.
That's it. Slán Bhód.